Hey everybody, welcome to the 15th episode of the Open1 podcast. And today I'm joined, we've got some friends from down under here who are in quite a situation. It's very important that we pay attention to what's going on here because our brothers and sisters down there are fighting the same battle that we've been fighting up here, and it's in no ways over. And we need to, in my mind, sort of collaborate, organize, work together on an international level because that's what our enemies are doing. And we have from Counterspin Media. It was going to be two of them joining us, but unfortunately, it's only one. But that's okay. I mean, we need to get attention to what these guys are doing. So, thanks for joining us. Would you like to introduce yourself and just tell us a little bit about what's happening with you guys down there?
Yeah, hi, I'm Calvin out from Counterspin Media. Down here, we were arrested on the 25th of August. We got raided. We had our mobile phones taken. We had our laptops taken, storage devices, anything electronic also were taken to basically try to silence us for what, obviously, the things we were saying is quite controversial because, well, the truth usually is. In a world of mainstream media minions and ever compliant narrative speakers. So our next appearance, of course, we appeared in court on the 31st, and then we have another court appearance on the 21st of September. So it's going to be very interesting.
And so what is it that they're trying to nail you with?
We actually allegedly shared a link on the 22nd of February on our Telegram, Counterspin Media Telegram channel, that was brought to the chief censor's attention on the 23rd, and he deemed it objectionable soon after and signed it off on the 25th. Now, in the legislation, they can't retrospectively enact that, but they did anyway. That relates to a UK investigative documentary going on called The Three Faces of Terror. This is over our March 15th, 2019 mosque attacks that happened here that the government politicized, of course, pulled out from the drawer their already in place gun control legislation, just like they have in all other parts of the world, all in lockstep with each other. And then rapidly banned anyone viewing the video or possessing it or the manifesto that went with it, which actually showed the guy was a raging leftist lunatic, nothing to do with being far right because it didn't fit the narrative. We weren't allowed to read it anymore. Some of us obviously did read it. So we've started asking the questions and investigating it ourselves. And now, of course, in conjunction with what was going on over in the UK investigative documentary, which was very good, raised some very good points that need to be answered. You know, why did the police allow this guy who should never have got a gun license, thousands of rounds of ammunition, which you just don't do? What about the people arriving in an unmarked plane and shipped to Christchurch? What about the pre-recorded training videos of mosque attacks prior to? What about the exercise that was going on at the time? And then obviously someone went live fire. A lot of people are under the mistaken belief that a false flag means no one died or it didn't happen. Well, that's wrong. It just means the blame is attributed to the wrong suspects. We, of course, were all waiting to see this Brendan Tarrant, of which there are three of them, by the way. Which one was going to go to court and answer all these charges of 51, dead people and countless injured. Just as they went into lockdown because of all this scamdemic, and we know it's a scam. It's cold and flu, basically rebranded, and everyone's subjugated under that line. He was adamant he was not guilty, and all of a sudden lockdown comes and he's pleading guilty to save everyone from a trial and all that. So there's so many holes in the official narrative as usual. It resembles more like Swiss cheese than anything else.
That's absolutely no surprise there. And yeah, and I remember hearing about this happening, and then to prevent people from quickly buying guns before because it was like the shooting happened, and there's legislation to ban the sales of certain kinds of guns, and then there was something that happened in the in between period was trying to stop people from buying the guns before the legislation come in, right? It was like
within days.
Yes.
You don't write legislation. You don't write complex legislation like that in a matter of days. It just does not happen. You can have all the best lawyers, barristers, whatever in the world working on it. You don't do it that fast. This, as usual, under the United Nations disarmament agenda, This is basically for when you be from free range humans to battery farm humans. That's where they want you to be under the new AI system and digital programmable currency. So they decide what you can and can't spend on, and putting you in all these little high density housing. Get rid of cars. It's complete and utter madness. It's a reorganization of the world the way they want it, and most of us, unfortunately, in their eyes, are surplus to requirements. So we're sort of getting killed off.
Only if they're successful, right? And or die fighting. There's absolutely no way, and I think I speak for many millions of us around the world, that we won't accept their agenda, their great reset. That will be I think personally the great awakening is gonna outpace them. They can't keep up, but it's gonna be a battle. And in many ways, I do believe we are in a form of a war. It's just not with bullets and guns. It's information and knowledge and memes. So
You're dead
yeah.
right. There's a whole lot of skullduggery going on in all types of facets of government, of public service, especially those unelected bureaucrats that basically are the puppeteers, and the politicians are nothing but we direct our anger at the politicians, but most of them paid for their compromise, their political horse, basically, just like the mainstream
Yeah, I
media are
like
as
that
well.
term. Yes.
Yeah. So we call it mainstream media journalistic horse, because they've all sold themselves out. And the people like yourself and us, we ask the real questions. We only, because Open1 Media, we started on the 25th of August 2021, about 18 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
Now, one of our foundation principles were we only ever deal in fact and evidence. We've had people wanting to talk about a lot of stuff. They want to talk about reptilians and all that. And I said, look, there's people who are doing that now. Until you can find me a reptilian that I can sit beside me, I'll even bump Hannah, that can be the co-host. I can have a little interstellar discussion with it. And then at the end, rip the face off to reveal the scales and stuff, or the, little cat's eye. Until we can do that, I think I'm going to stay away from that. I'm only going to deal in fact and evidence, what I can actually prove. And there is enough of that to show exactly what's going on without all the other. We know about the satanic abuse. We have it here. We've had pedophile rings that were run by New Zealand police involving politicians who later on then covered it all up. We've got that. We've been talking about that and bringing the evidence out for that. A whole raft of stuff. And these people are still in positions of power now. And these people, it dates back decades of their involvement in these nefarious activities. So it's no wonder they want us silenced, but we're like that stone in the shoe. You just can't get rid of us.
That's brilliant, man. That's what we need. That fight, that resistance. And I'm just curious, what was the thing, the event or the scenario that was like, okay, now I need to speak out. I need to start something, and it's going to be Open1 Media. I have to take up the sword and shield, metaphorically speaking, and start speaking out.
Well, for me, I've never been asleep. Some people say, when did you wake up? I've never been asleep. I've been fighting since I was little. I had a hell of a mother. I must declare right now, I'm a mummy's boy. Absolutely, without a doubt. A lot of people would say, hey, you're nothing but a mummy's boy. I take that as a badge of honor. My mother's absolutely amazing. My father, now, he was a dick. But she, when he dies, I go to his funeral just to make sure the prick's dead. Anyway, but I was raised well, and she always told us right from when we were small, when we could first string sentences together, she would always say the same thing. You believe nothing blindly. You question everything, especially if it comes from someone purporting to be authority. And that stuck with us all the way through. We took it through school. We took it through everything. At school, we get told certain things, and me being me, I say, well, how do you know? How can we prove that? And they said, oh, it's just in the book. That's just the way it is. It's like, let's have a quick look at the earth, right? You go in there, you see a globe on a table by your teacher, and you've got these designs on the wall where it shows a cutaway, where it's got your molten core and you've got your mantles and all that sort of stuff, and your 800-mile thick crust. So then I said, well, how do you know? Who's been down there to have a look? And considering the deepest hole ever dug was like 8 mile, how the hell would they know what's in the middle of the earth? You know what I mean? And these sorts of things are what really set me off. Well, hang on a minute. If these guys don't know what the hell they're talking about, who does? So that sent me on a journey of discovery. And the things I found are quite stark and amazing. And of course, when I met Hannah through a talk I gave, she invited me to. and we started hanging out together, and then we created Counterspin. And her drive, she wanted to speak out because she was all about the children. As soon as they started coming for the kids,
Yeah.
that was her line in
Mama
the
bear.
sand. Yep. And she was not going to stay silent anymore. And full credit to her. She's to this point, I mean, it's been stressful for her lately. I mean, not knowing, because she's finally getting a taste of what the power of the state can do when it just eviscerates rights and freedoms. They don't care. They can ride roughshod over anything because they give themselves the legal authority to do so. Never mind, they're just people like us. If I come into your house and I said, okay, this is how you're going to run your place from now on, and you can't go to the bathroom at this time, and you got to wear a mask in your room there and all that, I'd last probably 2 seconds in your house before you boot my ass out of the place. But yet we somehow have this innate built-in foundation that anyone who purports to be authority and says, I am, therefore you must do what I say, we just go along with it like compliant sheep. And I've never been about that. I've always been about, if you can tell me why, and it makes sense and it's mutually beneficial for us all, no problem at all. Just like we'll all drive on the left-hand side of the road, it's organized, we can't crash into each other, makes sense. But wearing a mask by yourself, riding a bike with no one else around, doesn't make sense. It's like basically putting a condom in your room in case you're pleasuring yourself so your neighbor doesn't get pregnant. It's just ridiculous.
Exactly. Yes.
It's just wrong. So, and yet in this country, we still have them doing it, even now that they've got rid of the masks and it's now just recommended instead of mandated. People are still doing it. They're so used to it now because the programming has taken place. Those people now, the government know, will never push back no matter what they do.
So when was the guidance changed in New Zealand for it being mandatory to recommended?
Night before last. Because she always does everything at 11:59 p.m. We will no longer be requiring mask wearing, blah, blah, blah. But, businesses can and individuals can if they choose to. And they tell everyone, be nice to those who still want to wear masks. Be nice to those who want to basically follow government dictates. But yet she wasn't saying be nice to those who decide not to wear them. Be nice to those who don't want to be jabbed with your experiment that's actually proving to be killing people. In this country, we have an uptick in the excess mortality rates as well. And it's quite disgusting how this government still to this day doubles down and tries to push the safe and effective bullshit.
Absolutely. And even it's almost, I'm surprised at what's happening here in a way, but I can see, there's been a relentless pushback and maybe they've partly succeeded in what they wanted to do, but the jab rollout is reversing and guidance is changing. And now the UK government has a big document, and on a part of that, it's like pregnant and breastfeeding women should not take this shit because of toxicity concerns. Are you motherfuckers?
Exactly. Like, yeah, and before that, over here, they were pushing to say it was safe and effective for them as well.
Exactly, right?
The government here in New Zealand and around the world, they have had all the science, the real science. The scientists that are shut up, they're ostracized. Over here, we have the New Zealand doctors speaking out with science. You've got New Zealand lawyers speaking out with science, New Zealand teachers speaking out with science. All these people who actually had the gumption to say, wait, there is something wrong with this. This must stop and be investigated first. But no, they got censured. They got mandated out of their jobs. And even our medical board is trying to destroy the careers of these doctors who actually are upholding their Hippocratical oath of do no harm.
I think history eventually will remember these people. They'll be seen to be on the right side and providing we're victorious. I do believe we will be. There's something I was curious though. What was like the compliance in New Zealand with the mask mandates? Because here in the UK, there was a point where you'd be one of, if not the only person in like a shop or a supermarket who wouldn't be wearing a mask. Now, thankfully, it's like reversed. Almost nobody's wearing them. It took a while. People had to, but then once it reached a certain point, it's sort of no one's wearing them now. So yeah, I'm curious what it was like in New Zealand.
It actually depends on what region you're in. Like around the bottom of the South Island, Dunedin, which is where Otago University is, where one of these so-called experts are trotted out on TV to spin a whole lot of crap that he doesn't even know what he's talking about. there was quite a big mask wearing population down there. In Auckland, you had probably about 70-80%. Some towns just didn't do it because it's just like, hang on, this is our town. These are our people. We know them. There's no one, they made the logical observations that this
Okay.
so-called deadly pandemic that's sweeping the world, that's like a little ninja taking everyone out as it's going down the street, and it's an invisible man nature. The very same virus that can kill you if you're standing up in a restaurant, but if you sit down, you're fine because it somehow
Yeah,
can
I
tell
forgot
height.
about shit like that. Yeah.
The fact that there's no big biohazard bins to collect these masks that apparently sift through the air and manage to get all this deadly pandemic on it and safely stowed away in there. The fact that those are just dropped in the gutter. And all the other illogical things that they've noticed, and that people weren't dropping dead like flies, like we saw on TV. They sort of took it upon themselves to say, well, I think I'll not wear a mask until such time as I see evidence of the claims you're making. And of course, that never came to fruition, because all they did was relabel the cold and flu, of which up to about approximately 600 people die here a year of influenza. So that's all they had to do, is highlight a few of those and tell everyone there's a deadly pandemic. You must run and get this saving shot, which we call, Satan's stab, or the clot shot, death shot, whatever. That's why our Prime Minister, instead of Jacinda Ardern, is Jabcinda.
Jackson, I haven't heard that one. Nice. Well, that's inspiring. At least there was pockets of people thinking for themselves. That's
Oh, yes.
inspiring to hear that.
And we had massive marches. There was like 30,000 people in one of the marches. Of course, we protested at Wellington. We did the reporting live from Wellington when it was over 3 weeks, where we just took over the grounds,
Yeah, the
camped there.
Hive, it was called, right?
Yeah, it's called the Beehive, but we call it
Beehive, that's it.
Parasite Palace.
Yeah, can you
because
talk a little bit about it? Because many people don't even know this will be the first time they're even encountering that there was a big resistance that happened for quite some time.
Massive, yeah, because a lot of people, the government tried to label the people who turned up at Parliament the river of filth. Now, a lot of people couldn't make it to Parliament because jobs and all that sort of thing, which is understandable. But there were thousands and thousands and thousands that just went there, and they camped there. We erected tents. It was a tent city. It was a perfectly functioning society. There
Did
were
you make it
food
down there?
stations. I was there for the whole thing. There
Nice.
were, until of course we got unceremoniously removed on the last day with police rubber bullets and all that sort of stuff, and brutality like you wouldn't believe. All because we dared to want to question their reasoning for locking everyone down, for destroying families. Our suicide rates gone through the roof. Our mental health is at levels unprecedented, and yet they still try to make out that everything's fine, when it clearly not. So we had, within the first 10 days, a fully functioning community where you had first aid, you had children's areas where they were getting taught, school stuff, where they didn't have to wear a mask and they could actually happily play. You had food stations, you had the lines of supply. Just it was incredible, and the amount of people. There wasn't one bit of violence, nothing. And these were different cultures, different people, all wanting the same thing. They just wanted to be left the hell alone to get on with their lives without the government interfering and destroying it. So it was actually something amazing to see. And this, even now, people still talk about it. They always talk
Yeah.
about the lessons of Wellington. And we were hoping for a 2.0 after they redid all the grounds and made it all pretty again. We were hoping to go back and do it all over again. But unfortunately, and some of the freedom movements you're probably seeing over there, we have infiltrators like you wouldn't believe. They go in there early. They usually come through trusted sources, and they derail things, or they tell the plans ahead of time, and you're sort of prepared for them. That's why with Counterspin Media, we started very small and we stayed tight and compact, and that's why we've been so effective. We tried to get a lot of other commentators to come on the platform and create their content and put it out there, so it would rival mainstream media, give people an alternative place to go. But I don't know whether it's ego or what, but it just didn't happen. And unfortunately, a lot of them now have already failed and moved on, and we're now the biggest alternative media in the country.
That's awesome to hold that title, man. And yeah, I can see, having gone through the activist movement here, I think a big part of it is ego is the actual human condition. Is we in many ways need to evolve before we're going to have a better society in many ways. So that's a bit of a tipping point, and it's kind of like it's frustrating in a way because it's like it'd be so nice we just roll in there, we'll storm parliament, get the politicians out, and but I don't think we're quite ready. At least from what I've seen, we're not ready to run the country. We need people to become better humans. There's almost like the dark side of activism, we could almost call it, where it's just all of the problems are out there, which it's necessary, and there was huge pushback and energy that moved and changed things. But then if the people themselves aren't actually ready on the inside to manage themselves and maybe to cooperate, put their differences aside, and yeah, it's a bit of a challenge. So it's no surprise that it's similar over there.
It's a buildup of nanny state. Nanny state over the decades have made people reliant on them. And we do it all the time. Every day we give our power away to someone else, hoping that they're going to solve our problems for us, instead of taking responsibility and doing it ourselves. Whether we give it away to some religious trinket on a wall, or we give it away to the latest social, political, or religious messiah that comes along, like the Pied Piper of Hamelin, lead everyone astray, dump them over the cliff, and they got to start again. It's all because we fell asleep at the wheel. We allowed this cancer to start riddling itself through the world, and we've only got ourselves to blame because we did not take stock of things and strike it down. We become too tolerant of people who are there to upset the apple cart. Geez, we had massive worldwide sacrifices and all these wars, the Great War, the war to end all wars. Then we have another lot because we just don't
Right.
learn. Second World War,
Yeah.
same thing, was to sort it all out. So what do? We put the idiots in power, the very ones who created the bloody wars to start with, and we expected things to be different. Well, that's on us now. I think there's too much peace, love, and moonbeams out there. People think they're going to hug their way out of this or manifest a new reality and everything's going to be fine. But what they don't realize is the other side of manifesting as well. So unless you've determined and united, you'll never have full a full united people. You just won't. We don't operate like that. But you gravitate to what those who have shared the same ideals, and so long as you've got many groups pushing in the same direction, you don't have to be under the same umbrella. But if you're pushing in the same direction, you'll get where you're going. Problem is, we've got people infiltrating. We've got people taking over movements and taking them other places, and it's just not conducive to a happy ending.
Yeah, right. And that's what I ponder a lot, is how much of it is actual like paid government opposition, if you like, in controlled opposition, or it is just the human condition where we're just not quite yet evolved enough to harmoniously live together, or at least work together on a common cause to take down a greater form of evil. So yeah, it's a tough one, eh?
And it is, you're right, that this is evil. It is actually the definition of evil. I mean, these people don't come with horns and a tail and a bloody trident. You know what I mean? They actually come like your neighbors, like your doctors, like your police officers, like your judges, politicians, and all that. And these are the people who are feeding off your energy. They are causing such carnage. It's incredible the amount of damage that's been done by these people, and yet they look like us. But they don't have, like you said, the psychopaths. They don't have the heart. They don't have the motivation. They don't have the caring aspect. It's like us and cows. They see us as human cattle.
Yeah.
And like I
Yeah.
said, they want to make us battery farm humans. When we look at a cow in a paddock, when it's mooing away, we go, oh, that's cool. Cow's mooing. It could be telling us, hey, I don't really want to be sent off to the slaughter and have my throat slit and end up on your plate while you're munching me along. You know what I mean? But we don't hear that. We don't see the pain that they go through or anything like that. But that's how these other parasites view us. Same thing. You cannot reason with a parasite. You have to fumigate it.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, you touched on an important point as well. As there is a part, I guess, of like the new age sort of communities, all love and light, just send the darkness, love, and everything will be okay. It's like, no, I think you're not quite understanding how a psychopath works. You can send
They
it all the
rely
love
on you
want.
being like that. Yeah, they rely on you being
Exactly.
like that. And just like,
Yes.
over here, people say, we have the right to peaceful protest. Of course, they want you to do that. They want you to say, we have the right to peaceful protest. Because what do you achieve at the end of the day? You achieve sore feet, tired arms from holding up your bloody placards, and usually you lose your voice for the next 3 days because you've been yelling and screaming so much. But what's ever really achieved? Zero. They take all this into account. It's very good for awareness, to have other people wake up and give information to them. But it has never in and of itself accomplished a damn thing. Because look at the Vietnam protests, look at the anti-war movements. We're still having wars. We're still having invasions of countries, just like the Ukraine. Besides, I'm actually on Putin's side in this, by the way. I make that no bones about it. I mean, over here in New Zealand, we've got our military over there training the Ukraine forces. We've given money to them and all that. And yet they call us far right. I still haven't found out where center is, so I don't know what far right of that is. If they mean I'm absolutely correct, then yes, I'm far right.
Yes.
And yet they're calling us Nazis and all this sort of thing, but yet they are funding. It's just projection. They're funding Nazis in the Ukraine, the same place their biolabs were that they said weren't there. Then all of a sudden, actually there are, because the evidence was given. So it's the whole world. It's just a crock. It's absolutely a crock. And our prime minister is probably one of the worst vermin that you could possibly have that's infected this earth.
Yeah, I don't see anything good to say about Jacinda. And just to touch on, because you raised an important point about the whole peaceful protest thing, and I can see that they have their place, but they are definitely not the be all and end all. And when I look at what played out here and how I believe the activists, in many ways, there's one combination of things that managed to stop things like the vaccine mandates. Like, I don't know if you know, they were trying to make vaccinations mandatory for NHS workers, and they succeeded with care workers. There wasn't enough of a resistance, I guess. They got that part, and it's going to be NHS, and everyone could sort of see it'll be the police, fire, da da da. There was protest, but combined with that, there was actually like legal challenges for the government, and there was a whole thing that set up. There was 100,000 NHS workers that were prepared to quit their jobs and all sort of got together and organized. A certain Dr. Steve James went viral, sort of confronting Sajid Javid on Sky News about the jab. That was pretty cool. And he was sort of spearheading this legal challenge. So it was like, there's all these different angles. It wasn't just we're going to march peacefully in the streets and that's it. It was like, let's do everything we can in every way we can. And that seemed to work. They backed down, they stopped the mandates, and that may well have stopped them from rolling that out to the rest of society. So yeah, there is merit to it, but then it's not the be all and end all.
Yeah, you guys obviously had a lot more of a pushback than us, because New Zealand's basically one of the lab rats to the world. If we buy the crap, they will franchise it out to the rest of you. And we've seen that. They did mandate things here after saying she wouldn't. I mean, we have all the tapes from way back, safe and effective. If you take this jab, you won't get COVID, you won't get sick, and you won't die. You can't pass it on. And then the message adjustment over time goes full circle. Well, yeah, basically it's as useless as tits on a ball, but take it anyway, because we've got KPIs to meet, and we've got a Pfizer contract that we still haven't released to the public because it would bring our government down. We had mandates here for everything: healthcare workers, doctors, police, aged care, schools, everything. Everyone was mandated. So, of course, the legal challenges as well, because there were protests here and legal challenges, but they were judicial reviews only. Here's the problem with judicial reviews: all a judge can look at in a judicial review is, did the government follow its own guidelines when implementing something? Well, of course, because they wrote the crap. So, of course, yes, they did. He could not look at the other things that were introduced. That would have to come under a criminal thing. So I've been trying to get arrested for something COVID related, so I could bring all the evidence in to show it to be a scam. They didn't arrest me for that. They arrested me for a link I shared for another investigation we're doing into government complicity in the tragedy that unfolded here where people died. And of course, they set it up. I make no bones about that. We have the evidence. So now we can finally get it into court, because what they thought they would do was shut us up, make us run away, and do a plea. Oh, no, no, no. This was planned. So now, by doing this, they've opened the door for me to introduce all the evidence that they've been trying to suppress. And I can bring it all through a court case. And I can now demand stuff off them. And I want to bring forward the guy they've got in jail, whether he's still in jail or not, one of the three that were featured in the movies, and ask him questions. And it's going to be very, very, very revealing. I think the government's not. I think they're going to think to themselves, we really shouldn't have opened that Pandora's box.
I can feel the passion and fire there, man. I love it. I really wish you the best for this. So can you give me what are they exactly the sentences they're trying to bring to you, and give us like the full picture here?
Well, over here, if you dare go against the Nazi state, we'll call it a Nazi state. It's actually a fascist state. This is the government trying to rule its people and working with corporates to do so. There's fascism. I'm facing 2 counts, each carrying a custodial sentence of 14 years in prison with a $200,000 fine. Hannah is facing one of those. 14 years and 200,000. I've got 2 times those, and a few other things like how dare we not give them our passwords to our electronic devices so they could snoop. You know how they usually say, well, have you got something to hide? I said, well, have you got something to look for? You know what I mean? It's always just spin it around. So, and yet I can show you a raft of pedophiles and kitty fiddlers and rapists and really dodgy politicians and police and that who have had sentences of almost nothing, home detention and all that for destroying a number of little girls' lives. You know, things like this. They seem to protect the vermin and those who are out to get justice, to bring truth, facts, and evidence. They want us gone because it goes against the narrative, and it's something that they just can't allow because it'll bring the whole thing down. And that is my mission. My mission is to bring the whole house of cards down around their ears, and I'm not going to stop. And you know, we have the one thing they can't do to us, they can't back us down. They certainly can't intimidate. And no matter what they come up with, because I only deal in facts and evidence, they're toast, and they know it. The only way to do it, and I'm not suicidal, by the way, is to take me out. That's the only way they're going to win this. And even then, that'll create a lot more questions. And I think that's a box they don't want to open.
Absolutely. We have it here, right? If you killed yourself, it wasn't because you you just couldn't take it anymore. It's they took you
so
out.
I'm having too much fun taking this Goliath apart. Seriously, this is like a David and Goliath struggle, but we have the little slingshot that's going to take them out. Really is.
So you said you had like actual evidence that you can prove that it was like a false flag exactly, or what is it? Or can you speak about this before? So is it next week your court case?
The 21st we go for another. We got arrested on the 25th. We had our first appearance in the court on the 31st of August, and now on the 21st of September, because you know the wheels of justice grind slowly when you're being attacked by the state, but of course they can do whatever they want with you in an instant because they're the state, basically weaponizing the money they steal off you to come against you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So this is basically just to put in a plea. I'll tell you now, because over here it's either guilty or not guilty. We're innocent, you know, but of course they don't allow provisions for that. But I'll just be telling them that the franchise, which is the all caps name that they deal with, they can go to court and we'll be insulated because we're the non-resident settlers, you know, by special appearance. So we'll see how that goes. But I want this whole case to play out. We want all the evidence brought into court. We want a trial by jury, not judge alone. And we're going to show everyone that the official story is completely and utterly not only unplausible, but it's carefully crafted narrative to hide their own involvement in it.
That'd be amazing. I'm really, really fascinated to see how this goes, man. You've like inspired me. It's really amazing what you're doing. It takes such absolute courage to do what you're doing.
Yeah, Michael, a UK guy, Burnican, I think it is. He's the one who's been, he's been doing the 3-part investigative documentary on the Christchurch incident.
Okay.
So he has a lot of the evidence.
Yeah.
Yeah, he has a lot of the evidence as well. So he'll be part of the case.
You've been in touch with him, yeah?
Yeah. So we're all going to be working. There's actually a massive team being assembled right now. There's a QC over there in London. I mean, we could kill the case tomorrow. Just the common law of England still applies here under the Imperial Laws Application Act 1988, Section 5. but we don't want it to kill it. I want to drag this thing out. I want all the evidence to come. I don't just want to be found, because if they try to drop the case, I'm going to do it again to get arrested, to get it into court. I'm going to keep coming at them until I pull them to pieces. I looked down the barrel of the camera a number of times since we started, and I promised them I was coming after them. I promised them that because of the damage they've caused to the people of this country, and that I was going to pull them down. And here I come.
Fuck yeah, man. Shit. I might even just need to do like a special catch up with you guys like next week, just to keep up to date with what's going on with this, man. This is
21st of
huge.
September, our time. That is, because we're first country in the world to see the light of the new day. So hopefully we'll be first to put the old jab right where it belongs, and the rest of you can just pull a carcass to pieces.
Yeah, man.
It's quite funny because over here, we've got mainstream media writing hit piece after hit piece after hit piece, and not once have they gone after or countered anything I've said. Nothing. It's all about attacking me, because as you can see, I'm quite a handsome looking chap with my bald head. So of course, all of a sudden, I'm a far right white supremacist Nazi in their eyes. Never mind that my family looks like a bag of licorice, bloody all sorts. They don't worry about anything like that. I haven't got a prejudiced bone in my body, but I am absolutely and utterly against them using positions of power to subjugate humanity and to basically cause the carnage and the harm and the deaths that they have. That's no. But there are still a couple of alpha males left in this country. We are not going to be feminized, and we're not going to be full of, we're certainly not confused. I am a man. I'm a him. There's only two biological sexes. The rest are fucking mental illnesses. Simple as that. And the sooner they realize that, the better, and get them the help they need.
Yeah, right.
Preference is different to biology. See, that's a lot of people think that I don't care what adults want to do. If you want to identify as a bloody potato, you can. I don't care. But do not dare go into our primary schools where kids are as low as 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 are being told that you can identify as whatever you like, and the sex you were born is only because a doctor assigned it, but he can reassign another gender, and you can identify as this, that, one thing, the other. It's just completely and utterly nuts. They're trying to grab the youngest generation, so by the time they get old enough, they are completely and utterly in control, and we're not allowing that to happen. It's not going to happen on our watch, because we have to draw that line. Everyone talks about drawing the line in the sand and not letting them cross, but we always adjust. People always readjust and say, okay, I'll draw a line here. Okay, we have your cave cross that right here. Now we're saying this line's firm. You cross it, we come after you. Well, they crossed it. Now we're coming after them.
So how awake do you think like New Zealand is? Have you seen like quite an improvement over the past 2 years, or is it? What do you think?
Yeah, I think there has actually been a large amount of people who have woken up. Like, I feel sorry for those who were forced to get the jab, because over here they said it was a choice. It's not a choice. If there's a consequence, or if there's an unfortunate consequence to your decision, that is not a choice. And where there's risk, there must be choice, which they never gave anyone. So they basically said, you decide, you either take this jab or you no longer work, can't feed your kids, can't keep your house, and all that type of thing. Those people I feel sorry for. And we need the government to fall so we can get these people the help they need. Because the government at the moment says, oh, there's nothing wrong here. Doesn't matter about all those people dead over there. We're going to put it down to everything else, like climate change, or if you're falling asleep in front of your TV, sudden adult death syndrome, all these things, or long COVID is doing it. They haven't even proven the brand name COVID-19, which is the so-called effects of this mythical SARS-CoV-2 virus, which is a computer-generated one, by the way. It's got nothing to do with reality at all. It's never been isolated and purified. So it's a scam. Like I said, the cold and flu was reassigned. All this has been happening in this country, but people now, after like 2 jabs, said, wait a minute, because we told them it's not going to stop at 2. They've got KPIs to meet. The Pfizer contract states that they've got at least 7 in Australia for every man, woman, and child. You are the hardware, and your jab is going to be your software upgrade every year. We told people this. They said, oh, no, you're conspiracy theorists. Well, as usual, as like all good conspiracies, they come true. And there it is. So, of course, we have more. I think some have taken their fourth jab or second booster, 2 jabs, and we don't call them vaccinations here. I don't call them a vaccine ever. It's a jab or a death shot. But yeah, as a result of that, people started thinking, hang on a minute, you told us 2 jabs and everything will go back to normal. And it didn't. You told us if we continued to lock down, we would flatten the curve and get rid of it.
That fucking curve, eh?
Exactly. That curve is like a bloody tsunami. It just kept building. But the other tsunami that we've started creating is the human tsunami. The human tsunami of change that is washing over this country is amazing. Courage is definitely contagious, and people are now starting to find their spine, find their backbone. No longer jellyfish. They're actually getting strong, and they're asking a question. Even a lame, what we would think is a lame question if you're so far down the hole. But to them, it's a big question. And when it's not answered satisfactorily, bang, there's the foundational stone of which they're then building back their own power base again, because they're realizing everything they've been told, every single thing that they've been told, with the media sitting in front of the TV, gorging themselves on the 6 o'clock news. They're realizing it's bunking, and people are questioning now, saying, wait a minute. So we're even talking Royal Commission of Inquiry into the whole COVID handling of the COVID scamdemic. But the problem here is, like every other Royal Commission, they will give it very narrow terms of reference. So you can't look into politicians, how much they got paid, who they got paid by, the incentives, the contracts, and all that, because that is where they'll come apart and all be jailed. They all need to be arrested. They all need to be put on trial. And if found guilty, they need to be locked away for a very, very long time. I would prefer they all got hung. But of course, that's apparently looking at violence. I'm advocating violence. No, what I do is I advocate extreme violence when it comes to self-preservation and self-defense, and the defense of those who can't defend themselves against a genocidal regime intent on killing everyone. Absolutely, I think that's a time you really do need to get violent. But that's justification for that. What's the government doing? Killing everyone. Where's their justification? There is none except profit.
Profit and control, right? Absolutely. Just maintaining their power.
Yeah.
And so a royal commission, I mean, I'm not even sure exactly what that means. What even is a royal commission?
A Royal Commission of Inquiry is like basically the highest, most potent inquiry you can get, where you can't escape it. Problem is they control it themselves anyway. And I don't know why they call it a Royal Commission. We've had nothing to do with the Queen since forever. In 1986, with the passing of the 1986 New Zealand Constitution Act, we basically got rid of our link to, well, the government did, we didn't. We got rid of our link to England. Problem is, the government was rogue. Any monarch who transfers power to a nation has to go to the people. The people must decide the laws they wish to be governed under, what form Parliament would take on, and create a proper constitution. That never happened here. They basically opened up the next day, business as usual, and then operated under assumed parliamentary sovereignty. Hence, they got forced to in 1988, 2 years later, to bring in the Imperial Laws Application Act, because they couldn't function otherwise. So that was some skullduggery going on there. All governments are corporations, as you know. I mean, we used to be listed on the US Securities and Exchange Commission as Her Majesty the Queen and Rights of New Zealand. Now, their last filing there, I think, was 2011. It was taken off there 2016, and it's now on the UK one. So if you have a look up Her Majesty the Queen and Rights in New Zealand on the UK Securities and Exchange Commission website or whatever, where they do the trading of the bonds, you'll see it there. All governments are corporations, and you're basically, through your birth certificate, just a bonded serf who they milk until you have no further value, and then you're gone.
Yeah, right. That's the debt slave system that we were born into. We've got to do our part to dismantle it. So is there anything more about like the situation in New Zealand or your actual case or what you're going through that you'd like to share with everyone? You think would be really important people know?
Well, at the moment, we're restricted on going on our own social media channels, like the Council Media social media channels. Now, we have other people running that for us while we're doing it in the background. We just tell them, what needs to be out there, because we want to keep the tight ship. We don't want this time of us not being able to be so hands-on we don't want anyone making mistakes. We don't make mistakes. We make sure everything's fact and evidence based. And if we don't know something, we'll say we don't know. But just keep an eye on like the Open1 Media Telegram channel, the website as well. We're revamping. That's going to have some good stuff on it, a good blog spot, some good writings from people on there. That's counterspinmedia.com. Nice and easy. And we're on Gab, we're on Getter and things like that. So we're starting to populate those. And this is a fight we will win. This is a fight humanity's going to win, like you say, because the other side's had its time to cause all its problems, to bring out the worst. That's why in the dying days of a brutal regime like this, they always double down, and they've been doubling down hard lately. So they're in trouble. They're like a cornered rat ready to attack.
Absolutely. And we just got to stamp on that head and finish the job, right?
Oh, yeah. Big time. With a massive boot.
Yes. Feel that, brother. Okay, well, thanks for coming on. And yeah, I think we should definitely stay in touch and keep updated on what's going on over here. Everyone needs to know what's happening. So thank you for sharing your story and for being inspiration and your courage.
No, you're most welcome. And thank you guys as well for getting the word out. And I think with our collaboration with like United Free Press and things like that, it's
big ups, Kerry.
It's going well. I tell you what, because we're all touching base now, and we are the new media, and we're the only one that really matters now.
Fuck yeah. Cheers.
Cheers, buddy.